are discrete, and you can surgically remove these and not touch these. I'll give you the reducing valve.
Yeah, experientially, Aldous Huxley's notion that, say, for example, psychedelic experience opens the reducing valve of consciousness and releases what he calls the throttling embrace of the self, which I think is a really nice formulation. It's like you're being strangled by this self-flagellating I. I think is really useful in the sense that we have to begin experimenting with different linguistic models for what it is that's occurring. So the idea that there is a much larger flow of consciousness there, that only a little bit is making it out through this little nozzle of the eye, experientially rings true to me. But it also raises the need for other models for talking about what is the relationship between mind and cosmos. That when you start to experience the flow of ideas that occurs as the eye gets out of the way even a little bit, almost inevitably there can be a destabilizing experience of wondering where the heck all these ideas are coming from. And as long as the I is still there to think that it is the author of the ideas, it needs another map to say what Huxley called mind at large is the source of these ideas. Or as Vernadsky, the Russian-Ukrainian biologist, early 20th century, talked about it, the noosphere is the actual location for thought. And I'm suggesting that those are interesting models to play with, not necessarily accurate descriptive labels for the flow of consciousness in ways that we don't understand. But when you start to experiment with the idea that ideas are coming from elsewhere, they seem to flow better than when you work with the ordinary kind of infrastructural solution that you are the agency of your own thought. And then it becomes a very beautiful, and a way I hope to talk about through Aurobindo, kind of exercise in like poetics of ideas, where you start to imagine and practice with different conceptual labels for where ideas come from. And that being able to admit that ideas do not come from you, and then you have an experience of aha.
Question?
We've talked a lot about the awareness of the eye and the awareness of the space and the stillness that is possible. Can you talk a little bit more in detail about the tools away from psychedelics you use to achieve a stillness, to achieve...
Yeah, all you have to do, go online and put in who am I, and Ramana Maharshi, if you can remember the name, and you get a little PDF that's about this thick. Ramana Maharshi was 21 years old, and it was the first thing that anybody asked him questions, and he wrote down. He was silent at the time, and he actually wrote it in the sand with his finger. That's how short it is. And it could not be more simple. Basically says, starts out, all beings desire to be happy always. When I read that, I thought, OMG, this is what I want. I want to be happy always. Can I get rid of my suffering? And the book is very simple. It just basically says, try to see where your thoughts come from. To whom do these thoughts, a little cumbersome language, to whom do these thoughts arise? And just ask yourself that in the course of the day. Put a reminder app on your smartphone. Have it pop up 6 times a day, and just stop for 2 minutes and ask yourself, where am I? Who hears? Just a simple question. And just see what happens. And when you ask the question, what often happens is you'll get a stop. The brain runs around saying, OMG, what's going on? It wants to know where we are. That's crazy. What a crazy question it is. But it stops. And the narrative stops. And that's the space. That's the answer. When you look for where am I, you find out you can't find it. The brain can't find it either. Ego can't find out where it is. And you just keep doing that. The problem, as Rich was saying, this is very simple. This is so simple you can't believe it. I couldn't imagine that you could do it that easily. It just takes a lot of persistence. You just keep going back and asking again and again and again, where am I? When am I? Who hears? And just follow it. If you find yourself getting caught into an ad hoc situation, I'm really mad this guy cut me off, or she cut me off, whatever, and just see, what is it that fuels this anger? And just keep rolling it back. Very simple, easy, cheap, free, cheap. You've got your indicator, to Rich's point earlier. You can just watch your thoughts and feel your thoughts. Get a real feel for what your thoughts feel like. And see how toxic some of them are.
Yeah, one metaphor that you might find useful is the idea of this as a kind of antivirus program that you run on your own mind, and you just ask it simple questions like, who sent you? Again, this might answer a little bit of why it's not more widespread, because it does take persistence. But the analogy I'd like to talk about these days is that in the early 1970s, when my father quit smoking, he was smoking 2 packs of cigarettes a day. It's like, hey, how about you stop that? How about you stop hitting yourself over the head over and over? And he had to do something, so he started jogging. It was like drawing on his Marine training. And he would go running down the street near my house in South Jersey, where I grew up, and people would shout at him on the street, Jack Doyle, where the hell are you going? It was an incredibly odd phenomenon to see somebody running down the street, not fleeing the police or, but he did it iteratively, right? He just kept doing it and was able to run further and further and further and heal his lungs from the 2-pack a day smoking. It's really no more complicated than that. But I think, he had the experience from the Marines of knowing that he could run further, and so he sought to recreate that. If you can go with the hypothesis, at least, that stillness is, then you can practice these very simple antivirus techniques that Gary was describing, which is saying, okay, if there is an I, where is it? I sometimes fantasize about people going to their local, doctors and saying, can you tell me where my eye is? Can you show me the instrument that will reveal it to me so that I can tell it to stop? The very simple techniques, again, I mentioned earlier that, if you, in the non-psychedelic realm, to just get that experience of stillness, it really does seem like the natural world, devoid of too much human chatter, is that. And the simple practice of daily meditation also is quite conducive to it.
Yeah, I encourage you too. We have 90 YouTube videos. We have 50 dialogue YouTube videos on YouTube. Just put my name in the YouTube search box. Go to any of my videos and click on Show More, and you'll get all kinds of free links. All you can stand. There's like 270 blog posts and 90 videos and a dozen interviews, and so there's tons of stuff to look at. It's all free. Just find, they're all searchable. They're Google platforms, both of them, so it's searchable. There's lots of information there if you want to do it.
Do we have time for a couple more, or
Sure,
Rich,
sure.
How much time do you need for your talk?
20 minutes.
20 minutes. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. Great.
One last thing is, people say, I have no time to do this. I am so busy all day long, I have no time to do something like take 10 minutes and ask myself, where am I? Are you crazy? I said, how many hours you spend on Facebook or Instagram or Twitter, YouTube? I work with lots of people. I said, 7 hours. I said, could you possibly cut that down to 4 hours and take some small portion of that and ask yourself where you are? It might be a lot more useful for you than the 3 more hours on Twitter.
Hi. Are dreams thoughts, and do you dream? I'm right here.
Oh,
Yeah.
Hello.
Yeah. Are dreams thoughts, and do you dream? When that stops, do you continue dreaming?
I've never been a big dreamer. I just never dreamed very much. But you do every night, though. We know from watching EEG scans of people who sleep and what they do while they sleep. Everybody has periods of dreamless sleep at night. I mean, you do have no thoughts during some period of your nighttime, and you love to be there. But I don't worry about the dreams, and I didn't find much value in using dreams. I didn't run visions. I was very, not very exciting. I just kept asking, where am I, who am I, what is this, and it stopped. But you got to want to do it.
I seem to dream less.
Hi.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And I don't know who's having them in the
So my question is, you mentioned the Department of Defense and the post-traumatic stress, and is there very much research if someone has post-traumatic stress and they do achieve the stillness, is it gone away right away, or does it take a while? And so then the next question is really quick. Do you think this negates the whole field of psychology and psychotherapy? I don't know.
No, well, I mean, we'd have a long discussion about psychotherapy and psychology. A quick jump around is DSM-5. Those of you who are in psychology curriculums know that there's a manual by which psychologists and psychiatrists can bill for their services. If it's described in DSM 2, 3, 4, 4, 5, now 5, then they can charge for it, and Medicare and the government will pay for it. So mystical experiences, as we probably all had mystical experiences, if you look at those and you look at how they classify depersonalization disorder, if you get the listing of here are all the things depersonalization disorder is like, and if you look at all the things, you would all say, these are my mystical experiences. And you take the Hood mysticism scale and put them over here, and you put the depersonalization disorder, put them over here, they line up exactly. I mean, all mystical experiences equal depersonalization disorder, at least the way they're defining it now. So you've got some real challenges. There's some good people in the Bay Area who've been working with people with non-dual experiences. There have been some really important cases that have happened. There was one woman, she'd studied a long time in TM, years and years and years. She's worked her way up in a hierarchy, and she stepped off a curb for a bus in Paris. Boom, opened up completely. The book's called Collision with the Infinite, Susan Segal. And after that happened, she didn't know what to do. She was completely, And so she went up the west coast of California, trying to find somebody who would treat her. And she ran across 10 psychologists working way up the west coast. Four of them seduced her, and the other 6 didn't help her any, until she got up to the Bay Area. And she found somebody here who said, hey, that's cool. What happened to you is exactly the right thing. It's what you're supposed to have happen. Congratulations. And she was just flipped over like that. So you got to make sure you get a psychotherapist who has some understanding of what non-duality is. There are some good ones in the Bay Area, more than probably any place else in the world. There's a good cadre here. But find somebody who isn't going to classify you immediately as having a pathology and is open to discussing what non-duality means and what depersonalization disorder and mystical experiences mean.
Well, why would you go? Why would you go to a... You have a need to go to a psychologist.
Go ahead.
Well, just quick. What it is, many people come to me and say, oh my God, I've had this experience. And my friends all say I'm psychotic. So am I psychotic or not? I say, well, here's some easy tests, and there's some really easy tests put out by, there's a really good guy at Penn who's published two excellent books. One's Why God Won't Go Away, which is the most useful of the 2 books he's written. But it actually goes through and says, okay, if you're psychotic and you report back on your experiences, how you describe your experiences and how you attach meaning to them, they're very discrete, very different. If you have mystical experiences, you describe them positively. If you have psychotic experiences, you describe them very negatively. If you're very frightened of them, you don't want to go back there again. Mystical experiences, most of us would say, I want to go back there again. It was cool. I lost my ego somewhat. That fantastic thing. You can just run that checklist down quickly. Go to my blog post. You can get it. And you can get these articles as well. And it's linked. But you can give yourself the first level test. So you can at least say, hey, I'm not psychotic. This is probably mystical experiences. But if you can't take care of your kids, If you can't do your job, if you can't, function decently in society over some time frame, then go see somebody, a good psychologist. But other than that, it's probably mystical experiences.
Can I,
Just one
Yes,
thing.
go.
If you were to imagine a future where all of human beings could achieve this state, I wonder if there would still be that field, and that's probably a hard question to answer.
No, but it...
To go talk to someone in a room because our thoughts were bothering us if they weren't.
That's right, but this is not on the institution's wish list, Christmas list. I mean, the last thing they want is for you to lose all your exaggerated desires, to lose all of your cravings, to have this ego-driven psychosis that we run. That's not on, the religions don't want that, the institutions don't want that, the government doesn't want that. This is not something that, this is going to have to be the people up. This is not going to, I don't think, come top down. This is going to be people up, recognizing this is possible. You can do it. You can take back your life. You can manage this process. You can DIY the whole thing. I DIY'd the whole thing. And you can do it yourself.
just a quick comment, which is that I think this speaks actually to ERIE's mission, that what you would do would be engaging in the integration of that experience of stillness and the further abiding of that experience of stillness. It would shift from focusing as a remedy to a pathology to a sort of enabling of evolution. So it would be less addressing a sickness than it would be, the practice of helping to further enable evolution.
A personal coach.
Well, maybe a personal coach, but a personal coach without any agenda and without any answers, but who was willing to be there as someone explored that space of stillness. So I think part of the issue is it sounds like it happens all at once, but for myself it was a long and turbulent unfolding, and that, if we oriented psychology away, as I know that many people here already do, away from the idea of trying to understand who we are as an identity and understand our stories, and instead turn it around towards the investigation of self, which is a different thing. The story is just a conceptual label for self. Then I think we would make great progress. Just a quick example. At my university, people have, because companies like Aetna have realized that, lots of stress caused diseases would be reduced if people did some of this. They're seeking to roll out kind of like curricular reform that would integrate contemplation and mindfulness into the curriculum. And I showed up for one of the meetings, and people immediately began engaging in the most blah, blah, blah self-narrative stories about who they were and how important it was that they figure out, why they felt they were who they were, as opposed to getting behind the stories and experiencing that state of stillness. So to me, it would represent a paradigm shift in the way in which we conceptualize psychology that I know that transpersonal psychology is already along the way of doing.
Yeah, and I'd also...
Yeah, go ahead.
This is not mindfulness. I mean, mindfulness is good. You can cut down your stress levels some by doing it, just watching your breath, being very quiet, yada, yada, yada. But it ain't going to fix the problem. I mean, it does not fix the problem. So this is, if you've done mindfulness, Vipassana, whatever it is, that's great. But you can go beyond that. You can go way beyond that. So, just so you understand the difference. I think there's some hope in this thing, because mindfulness 5 years ago was what? And now everybody's talking about mindfulness. So the thing is, what's the next step? What's TNS? I mean, there are people, venture people in the valley here saying, what's the next step? Can we make money off of this thing? Is this going to be, can we do this, make money off this somehow? How can we invest in this thing? And to me, you can DIY it. Coaching is really useful. I didn't have any coaches, and I flailed around in the dark for a lot of hours. There's a lot of stuff now, good stuff, available, YouTube videos, blogs, books, and stuff that can help you. You don't really need a personal coach. You can get one if you can, but you don't have to have one.
Does it really cure post-traumatic stress syndrome? how quickly, and just have you seen that?
I was with a guy yesterday who's from Marin. He's a psychologist. He and I spent a lot of time together. I was taught in his workshops. He does PTSD with Yoga Nidra. You may, I don't know if you heard the thing or not, but he's had very good results in PTSD treatment with returning people from Afghanistan and Iraq and such. The problem is he can't get reimbursed for it. I mean, amazingly, Walter Reed won't give him one penny for it. But he had lots of papers written on taking care of PTSD it's really better than mindfulness. It's a lot more like inquiry than what it is mindfulness. He's got good protocols for it, but yes, it works on PTSD.
And there's been research on ayahuasca and PTSD for at least 10, 12 years that seems to be very compelling. And the mechanism, part of the way in which ayahuasca seems to work is by turning the self back towards the self in the way that we're describing.
So just be mindful of time here.
Yes.
We're at 8:45 right now, so we probably want to give everyone a little break to shake things
Yep.
up before the next round.
Cool.
So maybe take a little break now, come back in about 5 minutes, and we'll start the second half of the presentation.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you, guys.